torpedo room. They jump in, they start opening up valves forward in the boat. The additional weight of 25 or so men on the nose, and the nose goes down nose first. The boat then operates, they open up valves, kind of in a choreographed fashion to the back of the boat. They have 37 seconds to get down it, and they're down about 580 feet, and they're running silent at that point. Little electric motor is balancing in the current. The aircraft, the Wildcats, lost them when they went deep, so they're circling around looking for him. And everybody on this boat is extraordinarily apprehensive, and there's a reason for that. They hear the pinging, they do too. That's active sonar. The Allies who are using radio waves, sending the waves through the water. If they hit the boat, it'll reflect back, and they'll have an idea of the depth and location of this boat. So things couldn't be much worse for them. On top of everything else, Harold Longa knows that the 9C U-boat was never meant to be an underwater boat. I mean, these boats are underwater, but 90% of the time the 9Cs ran on the surface. They use their big diesel engines, they open up hatches and vents, and they run on the surface for about 3 hours. They force air into the boat. That's how they oxygenate the boat. It also charges the batteries. But for 3 days up and down, they haven't had the luxury of being up on the surface for any length of time with the aircraft in the vicinity, so they have no idea how much charge they have on the batteries, how much air is in the boat, or how long they'll be down for is anyone's guess. So this is a tough situation. Now, Longa also knows another thing. These boats have a crush depth of 755. Now imagine you're at 580. If they go on top of you and start dropping and they hit you, you have to go down. If you go down low enough, he knows you're going to be imploded by water pressure. And if that occurs, he doesn't want to kill his men in that manner. So he's not happy about that thought. They're also down where it's much colder, so condensation forms from the tropical water temperatures where they were to cold water. It starts dripping on all the men, all the equipment. And what they don't want to hear is that sound of big splashing above them. That means those 600-pound depth charges are coming down. They blow up at different depths, so when they find the right depth, that could be it for the boat. So everybody is apprehensive, nervous, off-duty men are in their bunks trying not to think about this, and everyone else is silent and hoping for the best. And they're listening as they wait. They hear that splashing. They say a prayer and just hope they miss. Here they come, here they come. That first charge was on target, jams the rudder to the right starboard. Next one blows out the power. The boat starts spiraling down out of control into deeper water. Longa knows the score. Get much deeper, crush the boat. He refuses that. He wants to blow the ballast, take the boat to the surface. He wants to get the men off into the water and then scuttle or sink the boat by detonation charges when he hits the surface. After the men are out, he makes the call. They blow out the ballast. He goes up like a cork to the surface. He said that in his own words. He got to the top here, he went from the conning tower with his radio man to the bridge. And when they went outside to see where they were at, everywhere around them was a hunter-killer group. They were surrounding them, and the aircraft that lost them when they went deeper on top of them now opening up with their 50 caliber wing gun, pelting the conning tower. And then the destroyers are opening up with their 20 and 40 millimeter flak guns, they call them. They barrage the conning tower. There's a 6-minute attack on the conning tower. Captain's got a brutal, shattered right leg, left arm. Radio man was killed. He calls down, get him off the boat and scuttle the boat. So a crew member runs over here, takes that hatch off the pipe to the ocean called a sea strainer. They use it to cool the diesels when they're on the surface running them. But if they turn a valve, it turns into a way of sinking the boat, fills the boat up with water. All the men are getting up the ladder to the surface of the boat into the water, and the boat has just enough electric power still in the batteries that's making a spiral on the surface. It's tough to board, but a boarding party arrives from the USS Pillsbury. Albert David and his 9 men are able to sail their whaleboat right on top of the deck of the boat till they get to the conning tower, and they grab on. Now they're going to pull themselves up, and three men and Albert David come down the ladder into this boat. They didn't know what to expect. It was pitch black, full of water. They said, oh my God, we're in big trouble. One of the men, Luke, go find out where the water's coming in, and everybody else went into the captain's bunk and into the radio room. They got the Enigma code machines, all the intelligence that got out of the boat. Luke saw this water pouring out of this pipe, and he put a hatch on top of it, thinking it might be a booby-trapped hatch, but it wasn't. And lucky he hooked it down. The rest of the men are coming down from the boarding party looking for 14 scuttling charges. We'll talk about that as we go through the boat. Take a ride over here. As you pass, you'll see right here the sea strainer right here, which is where the water was pouring in 81 years ago on that fateful day. Now these diesels are amazing. They're 2,200 horsepower apiece. They're 9-cylinder, huge cylinders. We've got one out there you can look at. The turbocharged, of course. And you can still smell diesel in here. Now you tell me after 80 some years why diesel still exists. While all their food tasted like diesel, they said within 2 weeks every bit of this great food they had tasted like diesel fuel. That's because it permeates everything, the metal, the pores, everything in this boat. And though it's been, off duty forever, and it's been changed and painted and cleaned, it still smells like diesel. Now these are the electric motors. These are the underwater 600 horsepower apiece. They're not very fast, but they're fairly dependable. Everything on the German boat's pretty dependable. Now imagine this. Albert David was a lieutenant. He was what's called a Mustang officer. He came through the ranks. He came from an enlisted man and made it as a lieutenant. He'd been a 20-year veteran. He retired and came back into right before World War II began. They had him come back into it. And now he was a man at 40 years old that was leading the boarding party. He trained his crew. This crew's full of 21, 22-year-old young men. Most of them volunteer right off the bat, wanted to come down for the excitement. When they got in here, they thought, oh, we're done for. This boat was pitch black. This boat was full of water. And this boat was so low, they're about 8.5 foot of the conning tower. The very top of the boat, the tallest part of the boat, was above the water line, and about 20 feet of the front bow of the boat was also above the water line. They thought this boat was going down. They thought this was a one-way journey. When they hit this boat, they said, oh my God. But they had a job to do. They had to find 14 scuttling charges. They build these boats with 5-pound detonation charges built into the pressure hull, and they're on timers. So they can set the timers for like 15 minutes. If they want to detonate the boat on the surface, get the men out of the boat, then the men have about 5 minutes to get away from the sides of the boat before the detonation charges are delivered. Their job is to find these detonation charges before they have a chance to blow up. That's a tough call for anyone to do. Well, they went out looking for them. And believe it or not, in about 8 minutes, they found 13 of the 14 scuttling charges. And the most miraculous thing about finding them, besides the fact they found them, was the fact that they had not been armed. The Germans had got off without setting the timers. So they knew that those things were not going to detonate. And can you imagine the chill that went through their bodies when they realized they had a chance of making it out of here alive? They probably got euphoric, probably were happy, probably were making a lot of noise. They came through the back of the boat till they got about here. And when they discovered the rear torpedo room hatch had been locked and sealed and watertight, and they hadn't found the 14th charge, immediately they thought, okay, it's in here. That's where it is. It's in here. If we unlock this, we open this up, it's going to detonate. So this is what they're thinking, because they don't have any other frame of reference about this. They couldn't find it, and they thought, okay, it's in here. Somebody else said, well, what if the depth charging, what if that back room's full of water because the pressure hull will crack? If you crack a pressure hull, these can seal, but if you open it up, there's 20 tons of water behind you and you're dead. That's it. The boat goes down to the bottom of the Atlantic. So nobody touched it, so they got Albert David. He came in. He decided he'd go up and talk to Captain Dan Gallery. Now, Dan Gallery had a motto for his team. It's called Can Do. He called his aircraft carrier Can Do. He took on any tough job. He wanted to do it. He was a Chicago guy. He was a little Irish Catholic tough guy. A fighter is what he was. He wanted to come down and check out this because he said, I know something about ordnance. I'll bring down my chief engineer. His name was Tristino. And a couple of electricians. We'll check this out, boys. So you get out off the boat and we'll come on down. There they came. First thing they did, they came over here and they checked these electric boxes, and they're looking for tampering in the wire system. Nothing. They went around the hatch looking for wiring. Any sense that the hatch had been booby trapped, couldn't find anything. Now something else has occurred to Dan. Dan Gallery has another mission. His first mission was to get the intelligence, the enigmas off this boat and all the intelligence, and he did that. So he's very high about that. But now he wants the boat. He wants this as a trophy. See, hitting my head just like Harold Larry. So he wanted this boat. He wanted to capture this boat. There's a problem. The rudder's jammed. The batteries are totally out of power. They won't use the diesels. They think it'll swap the boat. He tried to pull it behind his aircraft carrier with a jammed rudder, and all the water weight snapped his cable. Too much torque against the pull. So now he's figuring, if I can find that manual rudder control, I can straighten those rudders up. I can pull this somewhere, and maybe we can capture the boat. Well, he's thinking it's back in here, the manual rudder control. Some of the men probably didn't want to open this up for that very reason. So he doesn't think it's booby trap, and he also doesn't think there's a pressure hull leak, which I don't understand how he knew that, but it was pretty intuitive of it. So they came over, he and his men, they decided they're going to get the boat. So he unlocks the door, they put their weight up against it, and they just baby this hatchet until they get a little crack in it. Nothing came out, and that's a good sign. And when they opened this up, and they looked in here, what they found was water on the floor, yeah, but not from a pressure hull leak. Somebody did where's that water coming from? They looked around, there's a bathroom. That little bathroom, one of the sailors that opened up the valve to the ocean and was pouring water from, the ocean onto the floor. So there was like maybe 3 or 4 inches, 5 inches of water in there. But all they had to do is go in and shut off the valve, just like at home. If you got a leaky bathroom, a stool, you turn the water off so you don't, flood the rest of the house. That's exactly what they did. And they knew now they could take it because they found that big black wheel back there. That's a manual rudder control of this boat. They were able to straighten up the rudders, now they can pull it. They're not sure where they're going to pull it or how long it'll take or what they should do next. But they've got all this water in the boat, and it doesn't look like it's seaworthy. They got 58 prisoners of war on the Guadalcanal aircraft carrier, and these guys, we got to do something with them. They have 900 pounds of intelligence from this boat. And the last and the least is where in the world they're going to pull this boat to. So we're going to go outside down the back of the boat and talk about the last place from the capture of the boat to how it got to Chicago, Illinois. Now, if any of you have like adventures going at the museum in the next 10 minutes or so, please go ahead and feel free to go. If you don't, and you want to hear the rest of the story, it's pretty amazing, I will tell it to you. So take that curtain on the right-hand side, folks, and just move it clear over to the left, and we'll go on down and talk about this if you're interested. I just suddenly got an hour here. All right, yeah. See you right on down there. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.